Hey everybody, doing something a little different this time. I brought out my Löwe, which I don't really play that often, but since Funkwad wanted to bring his along and grind some credits, I decided I may as well bring mine out as well and try and fix my shitty win rate in it. We've also got Jelly, who's in his T32. Now, the Löwe isn't a tank I particularly enjoy playing in pub matches with. It's just too big, too slow, and too poorly armoured to really stand up to the kind of beating you're going to have to take if you want to carry a pubby team. But with that said, even though we are in a tier 9 match, we're on a city map, Ruinberg, and there's also no Artie. So we might be able to get away with it. Also worth noting is the fact that the enemy team has very few highly mobile tanks with large guns. They do have a T-54, and the rest are light tanks or low tier mediums, which aren't really a big threat. The IS-8 could be a bit of a problem, but, well, we'll see how that works out. So all three of us head into the city. The enemy light tanks and our light tank mutually spot each other up in the village. We do have people heading out there, but they're taking the long way around. In fact, most of them aren't even going, they're just setting up in the field, which is not smart, but this team clearly is not made up of a large number of smart people. So I'm taking a big risk here, deciding to push the Crescent Road, and in fact I run face first into a Super Pershing, which had me a bit worried, because if he fires gold at me, he does actually have a halfway decent gun. The IS-8 is also very scary because he will fuck me up. Oh god, and another Super Pershing. But here, something absolutely fucking incredible happens. None of them can aim. I just bounced the IS-8. His gun should just go straight through me. The M62 doesn't even care about the Löwe's armor. It may as well not exist. I'm not even in a proper side scrape. The front end of my hull is sticking out. All they have to do is just aim and they could fuck me up. Here I was panicking, calling over TeamSpeak for help, but I didn't really need it. The T-29 gets a shot in, but these other tanks just don't seem able to handle me, and this really I did not expect. Typically in the Löwe I'm used to getting beat up on even by same tier heavies. I don't expect to be bouncing IS-8s consistently. So I do actually end up getting a little help here. Jelly comes up, and also the IS-3. T-54 turns up, and we now have the majority of the enemy team actually on that corner, fighting my Löwe and Jelly's T-32. T-54 does get a shot through me. He actually does know how to aim. And he gets another ring, breaks my turret and kills my loader. I kit both, and I start to move back a little just because that T-54 is actually penning me. I can't afford to die to him. But he carelessly drives out to get a shot, I think in behind me or something, or it was a very poorly aimed shot at me, and so I was able to put a shot in. The IS-8 here, I think, lost his connection, or tabbed out or something. Gets cleaned up. And then the T-54 is sitting at an angle, a bad angle. He's showing me his side armor, and there's really no way I'm going to bounce the way he's sitting. I don't know if he thought he was angling his front to me or what, but he was giving me so much side that the Löwe's gun could just go through him like he had no armor at all. And now our team actually start pushing in because we've taken map control, and so now I actually do have backup. Despite now having some teammates, I still want to take advantage of this position as long as I can, so I did a little more side scraping and then waited until the enemy tanks were distracted before I pushed out, and of course our Pershing drove right in front of my gun. T-29 stranded out in the open. In fact, our Pershing is just pushed straight in there face first, as has our IS-3. T-29 bounces. It's going to be his last shot. I'm able to clean him up. Enemy T-34 runs, he just gets into cover before I can get another shot off, and right as I'm aiming on the other T-34, our pubbies unfortunately cap out. Now, if our puppies hadn't have capped out, this still would have been a win because there was really no way we could have feasibly lost this. And I would have ended up with like a 4,000 or 5,000 damage game in the Löwe in a tier 9 match, and I would have been over the moon. As it is, this ended up being a 3,300 damage game in the Löwe in a tier 9 match, and I ended up bouncing a ridiculous amount of damage. How much damage, do you ask? Take a look at the post games and just marvel that this tank really, it's rare to see more than 1,000 damage blocked. To see that much is just unbelievable. I mean, the Löwe does have a fairly bouncy turret from certain angles, but its hull just isn't impressive. It never has been, really, and it certainly isn't now. Power creep has left this tank behind. It does still have a decent gun, but it's slow, it's big, it can't stand up to even medium tanks of its own tier now, because most of them have guns that will pen it like butter. And yet, against half the enemy team, including a tier 9 medium tank and a tier 9 heavy tank, I was able to hold out and tank that much damage, and then put out my own damage. I don't understand. I was absolutely gobsmacked after this match. It was just beyond belief. As you can imagine, it's the kind of match I want to have in this tank. Unfortunately, it doesn't end up happening very often. So if you're going to take something away from this, I guess it's that you should actually aim. There were a number of situations there where any of those tanks, particularly the IS-8 and the Super Pershing, since they got there first, if they'd actually aimed, they could have quite easily fucked me up. As you probably noticed, I wasn't properly side-scraped in that first position I moved to. I still had the front of my tank poking out. It's just, I guess, that they decided to shoot at my side because reasons I honestly can't decipher the course of thought that led the puppies to aim at my side when my front was exposed, but they did it, and that was part of what got me such a huge amount of bounce damage. As for the actual Löwe itself as a tank, it's not going to get anywhere really in a tier 9 or 10 match these days. It's just, there are too many tanks that it will have trouble penning that can run rings around it, knocking off 400 or 500 hit points at a time no matter where they hit it. Particularly with the advent of tier 9 mediums with tier 10 guns, even tier 10 mediums. It's just, the game has changed so much since this thing was added. It's really just a worse Tiger II. Previously it was a very good sniping tank. I think it has the same top gun as the Tiger II, but with slightly better soft stats or something, or maybe a very incrementally better version of the Tiger II's gun. But you know, it paid for that. It did actually kind of have decent armor when it first came out, because guns are a lot more inaccurate at long range, even on the sniping tanks, and typically they had a lot less pen per tier. So, you know, it could bounce things, and it could quite comfortably sit back and engage from long distance, and also everyone was quite a bit less mobile. But these days you've got shit running around tier 9 mediums with tier 10 guns like the Sent, the Type 61, and the Wheezy 120, and you've also got a lot of light tanks that can go up to 65, 70 kilometers an hour. And if you add in the much more varied terrain and physics and all the other shit, the Löwe has actually lost mobility. It's lost armor in relation to the guns it's facing at any rate. It has actually technically gained armor, particularly on the sides, but realistically speaking, it's not keeping up with power creep. You know, it does still have a decent gun, and it will sometimes bounce things, but really you just get a better overall package in the Tiger II. But, you know, it is a premium tank, so you do still make money in it hand over fist, so there's that. You can train crews in it, and every now and then something magical like this happens. Would I recommend buying it? No, not in this day and age. If you'd asked me that when the game first came out and when it was first added to the store, I would have said yes, definitely. Remembering back then that it was a lot better than the KV-5 was. The KV-5 has since actually seen a big comeback between a number of buffs and just the fact that puppies forgot how to fight them, because they became quite rare for a while. The KV-5 is now a pub stomper extraordinaire, as you may have noticed if you've seen any of my videos with it. Particularly with some of the stuff that was posted on the forums after the buffs, like Garbad's KV-5 challenges, it started to get a lot more popular. And so yeah, now it's once again a tank that you see quite a bit. But the Löwe is It's still a fairly common tank because people do still play them. If you're going to go for a tier 8 heavy though, if you want it for credits, the T-34 is just a better tank in every respect. If you want a German crew trainer, then I guess you're fucked. You're going to have to buy one anyway. But actually, I would recommend holding out for the Panther with the 88mm gun, which is essentially just what the Panther used to be when it was a tier 8 medium tank, and just convert a crew from medium to heavy once you get them trained up. That's really all I can say for this tank. Like, you can still use a crew as a crew trainer, but I wouldn't recommend it. Honestly, you would probably get a better time out of just using a normal tank to train the crew up initially and then convert them and play whatever tank you put them on to continue training them. Sorry, I'm probably not speaking the most coherently right now. It is quite early in the morning, but I think you might get what I mean. Basically, it's what Goons have been doing for a long while, particularly for these Soviet mediums, because there hasn't really been a good Soviet medium trainer except the Matilda IV, which most Goons don't like because they're bad people. So they end up using things like the T-34 or the T-54 as crew trainers and then just converting the crew to whichever tank. That certainly works, and I've done that a number of times before. If you have enough money to really throw around without caring how the tank performs, I guess you may as well get a Löwe, but if you want something that's fun to play and versatile, this isn't it. Pretty much every other tier 8 premium is a better deal than this, and I mean that's saying quite a lot because you've got things like the T-34-3 in that group. I wish I could say nice things about this tank, I really do, particularly because, you know, back in the day it was actually quite, maybe not fun, but quite good to play. You know, I hesitate to call anything this slow fun, but it's not relevant anymore. It hasn't been relevant for a long time, and even though you do still see them, it's reflected in the numbers. You used to see 4 or 5 Löwes every match. They used to be really common. Again, a lot of tanks used to be, like the Type 59 used to be really common. You don't even see that many Type 59s anymore. It's quite rare. Premiums in general seem to have been diluted, so to speak. By far the most common I think I see anymore is the T-34, the US Tier 8 Heavy, probably because it's just the most flexible, most versatile, and the least hobbled. Type 59s are still relatively common. JT-88s actually are quite common, probably the most common after the T-34. Super Pershings, yeah, kinda. The popularity's faded a bit, but you still see quite a few of them around. But a lot of the really old premiums, like the Löwe, the KB5, the ones that you can't get anymore, like the KB5, you can't get that anymore except on special deals. The Type 59, Type 62, they're starting to fade out, and you're seeing more of the JT-88 and the T-34, and I think as well, I've been seeing a few war crimes, not a huge amount, but a few. The 122-44 as well remains popular, and of course the E25 is very popular because it's overpowered as shit and probably isn't going to get fixed, even with the TD nerf. Anyway, I think I've rambled on for long enough now, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope if you have one of these tanks you can pull off some matches like this, because they really are rather vindicating. Particularly after suffering through my last several attempts to fix the win rate on this tank, having a match like this was just wonderful. I wish you the best of luck in the field. I really hope you can get something just this bullshit, because it is a good feeling, and I will see you on the next one.